who I was so out of control. But again, as Pastor KWalker invited me, as he shared on how he was released from the bondage, and now I've been delivered myself for 24 plus years. And it's amazing that there's so many people that are still doing the same thing that we used to do. And I'm just grateful to be here to make a difference.
Now, Bishop Campbell, we have a minute for you to sort of make some statements, and then we'll come back to you during the second segment and start with you. But say who you are over the last minute that we have here,
Yes.
Bishop Campbell, and then we'll come back to you.
I also want to thank you, Dr. Haney, for allowing me to be here. My name is Bishop Marcus Campbell. I'm the pastor of the Mount Carmel Missionary Baptist Church located at 1032 Monroe Street, and founder and CEO of the Gentlemen and Not Gangster Juvenile Mentoring Program that we have here in Nashville, Tennessee.
And so quite a bit has been done in reference to that particular program, and I think that the three of you bring some excellent information in reference to how we might be able to deal with some of the challenges that are facing our young people today. And so we're going to take our first commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Information for the next 4 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes, you know, just lay down some information dealing with this particular issue. Then you follow him and take about 2 or 3 minutes of that, and then we'll let you sort of wrap this second segment out for today, and then we'll come back and we'll go back down and we'll have 10 minutes to sort of bring all of this information together. But the information I think that we're getting today is very, very important information, because I think this, and that's why we like to do this background information, just to indicate that no matter what a man's situation might be today, that it was not always like that, you see, and I think that's an encouragement, and you ought to hear my story.
Oh my!
You ought to hear my story. I was a military brat in a real sense, with my father overseas, and he was an Air Force person and whatever. And my family, my mother and everybody was there, and I was 18 years old in Paris, France.
Running wild.
Running wild.
Young man.
Running wild.
Yes, sir.
And so God
Paris.
saved me too. We've all got those stories.
Oh, yeah.
I think that when we own up to them, then we can move forward.
Absolutely.
That's right.
That's so true.
Right.
And so when we come back, Bishop, we'll start with you, and then Waller, and then on down. And this will be our 8-minute segment.
All right.
Is this the 8-minute segment? Yeah, this is the 8-minute segment. Right?
That's all right.
Thank you, and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. The topic is the dilemma of the African-American male, and we're fortunate to have with us Pastor KWalker, Reverend Waller, and Bishop Campbell. And, of course, Bishop Campbell, I think the end of the first segment, we got a little information from you, but what I'd like for you to do during this second segment is to take some time to talk about some of the challenges that you think that our young people are facing, and how you would like to see some of these things resolved. And then Reverend Waller will have an opportunity, and then Pastor Walker, and we'll be able to sort of cover the 8 minutes of this particular segment.
Yes, sir. Dr. Haney, dealing with the organization that we have, Gentlemen and Not Gangsters, dealing with the juveniles that do come through the program, one thing that we do notice is that we have an economic dilemma. Not only that, we have an educational dilemma, and we have a personal dilemma. The economic dilemma is that mom and daddy might be incarcerated or have been incarcerated. It's hard for them to get a job and provide for their family with those felonies on their background. Juveniles are not able to have any employment because of their age, or they're just not jobs that's willing to give them a chance or to try them out. When we look at the economics, most in the black community, not many of them is making more than minimum wage because of the educational background of where they don't have a great education. When we look at a lot of schools in our black community, especially here in Nashville, their test scores are so much lower than schools that are outside of the demographic of where we live at in the poverty places in Nashville that we are. And the personal issue that I see is that because of the parents and what they are accustomed to, what they have been taught, what they have gone through in their lives, they're teaching their kids the same thing. So they're just prone to what they've been taught, what they see, their environment, and it's causing a dilemma with our black males because they're becoming what their environment is. And I just believe if we had a better economical system for our black community with great educational background there to support them to be able to get their economical ways together, I think the personal problem with the parenting and the child would be totally different. But that's what we deal with a lot of times. We find that the parents are not as involved and engaged in their life as they should be. We care more for the kids than they do. They drop them off at the front door, they leave them. They don't come inside to see what the program is about. A lot of times they might not even drop them off. They give them a little bit of bus fare and tell them to get there the best way they can. So I think there's a big overall picture that we can't just key in on one point dealing with the dilemma with our young black males in America.
You know, Bishop Campbell, what I'd like to understand, and perhaps you might be able to give us some information in reference to this, do you think it would be cost effective for our governmental officials to provide our young men and women with some kind of employment instead of simply refusing to do anything in that direction? Do you think that would help us out?
It would help us greatly. You know, being in the faith-based community, we have a saying of what we say is the idle mind is the devil's workshop. And I believe that these young teenagers, our juveniles, had an opportunity of employment, that it would teach them leadership, teach them responsibility, give them a great reference, a great start in their life, to show them that you have to work for what you want and not go out and take it from somebody else or selling to destroy somebody else's life to be able to benefit your own pocket.
What about you, Brother Waller?
Dr. Haney, what I know about the youth and people as a whole in our community, this is a trap. And what happens when a trap is set for you, you don't see the trap. And once you're captured into the trap, such as I was, I didn't even know I was in a trap because the things that I was trapped in was attractive. So we have to be mindful of what we do in front of others. People were doing things that had my attention, and it caused me to desire to be into what they were doing. And after doing so, and then got captured, it was like, this is a wonderful thing. I'm getting high, I'm getting money, I understand the language, but it's one thing that I didn't know, and that is that the trap was so powerful that once you get in it, there's an enemy, and you have to do his will. And I was that person that came to my senses, as the Word of God says, after you had come to your senses and escaped the snare, the trap of the devil, having been taken captive by him to do his will. So once a person is trapped, they're going to do his will. Now what we have to do is bring forth great information that's so powerful that they would miss the trap. Now after I was released from the bondage that I was in, I was told to go back to my community in which I had made so effective in the unrighteous path that people followed me, admired what I was doing, but I was in a trap. So I called so many people to be in a trap with me, and he's sending me right back out there to get the people that's still out there out of the trap. And that's my responsibility. And I've written a book that's entitled Still High, one of the greatest books that I think that could help our communities and get people back into the swing of what we really need. And that's my desire, and that's why I'm out in the streets. New Way Outreach Ministry is a ministry that reaches out. Don't be inside of the building. I'm outside where the people are that's hurting, that's crying for help. And my encouragement to the people that's in the church, come out of the building. You never know the importance
And
of
so
that.
the idea of the book, Still High,
Yeah.
is to indicate that you are still high, but you're high on something outside of what you were generally high on, and the experience is greater,
Much greater,
with being still high
Yeah.
than it was during the earlier parts of your